What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Minutes was using his lost unique skill, Oppressor, to the fullest. What was even more mysterious was that, despite being a prisoner of war, he was dressed elegantly in a suit that gave Ramiris the impression that he was even more powerful than Venom. Furthermore, Calgurio had been raising his existence value for whatever reason for some time, and he had now hit 400,000. The rate of increase had slowed, but it was still rising, which defied logic. It was an extremely fascinating occurrence. But regrettably, this was not the right moment to follow up on these issues. Pushing aside her confusion at having so many worries at once, Ramiris gave her commands.
I have the power to bring you all back to life, even if you die. So please, make use of everything at your disposal. The primary issue is with Masayuki.
What exactly do you mean?
Even in the event of his death, he will just be brought here. But, if he gets taken away, then that is it, right? Thus, I believe it would be safer to evacuate him.
I see.
Bernie and the others are attempting to get him out regarding that.
Oh.
This astonished Ramiris. The fact that Bernie and the others had reached the same conclusion that she had, and that they had taken action before they had even been given orders, impressed her. Firstly, Masayuki was a cowardly person who would never be able to end his own life. It was improbable that he could kill himself in order to flee, even in an emergency. Still, she could relax knowing that Bernie would be accompanying him.
Speak with Bernie. Tell him to have their escape route set to this location. Additionally, as you are undoubtedly aware, in the event of a mishap, take immediate action.
Understood.
As soon as Ramiris gave the order, Alpha launched the telepathy net. The command reached Bernie instantly, and the encryption procedure worked perfectly. Once Ramiris had confirmed that, she finally exhaled a breath of relief.
That's pretty much all we can do, I believe.
She remarked. The big surveillance screen was split into pieces, each displaying the battle conditions at that particular place. Regardless of where they were, things were not going well for their companions.
We actually don't have anything without Rimuru.
It was a terrible timing. We wouldn't have been at such a disadvantage if the Guardians had been awake.
Although that is true.
Beretta was undoubtedly correct. They wouldn't be so far behind in this fight if their whole lineup was deployable at this very moment. But even so, as she observed events, Ramiris felt a sense of responsibility. The labyrinth had become an indispensable part of her existence to that extent. At that moment, Beta, who had been keeping an eye on the quantity of magicules, let out a strained cry.
An emergency has occurred.
What the hell is going on this time?
The magicule supply from Sir Veldora has been shut off, even though it was expected. If things continue this way, the city will be returned to the ground in less than 10 minutes.
Oh. Does that imply that Master has lost the battle?
For Ramiris, that was a hard fact to accept. Nevertheless, she had to concede that it was a possibility given that Velgrund was his opponent. Anticipating this situation prompted the evacuation. Ramiris made the decision to have faith that Rimuru would find a way to look after Veldora. If she continued to remain depressed, nothing would change, therefore she had to think positively and take action.
So, how is the evacuation going?
No issues there. It is lucky that Sir Masayuki was able to convince those who were against the evacuation prior to his departure.
People who whined excessively were always present, no matter where they went, and Rimuru, the capital, was no exception. Frustrated by the circumstances, about 10% of the people had steadfastly refused to leave, including foreign merchants and those looking to make quick money. Masayuki's speech was all it took for those folks to start cooperating. After hearing it from Masayuki, they were more than happy to comply. Ramiris was taken aback by the effect, which was virtually a brainwashing one. Gamma, who had been monitoring the situation there, confirmed that nobody remained in the city. No issue then, Ramiris thought as she chose to separate the metropolitan region.
In the absence of anyone, the defense mechanism cannot be engaged. It's unfortunate that enormous damage to the city is unavoidable.
Beretta-chan, hold on. Saying that will just cause me to lose my determination.
Still, the situation was very much inevitable. Ramiris herself was running low on mana, and having reached the maximum size of the labyrinth, she had nowhere to put more structures. That was the drawback of using Veldora as a source of energy, but Ramiris was at a loss on how to solve this problem.
Of course, I am fully aware of it. If it were Sir Rimuru, I'm sure he would say that everything could be rebuilt from scratch.
That's correct, so I suppose we just need to make a decision and deal with it.
Continuing with the city evacuation, Ramiris gritted her teeth at her own helplessness. Now all that was left to do was hope that, once it returned to the ground again, stray shots wouldn't blow up the city. And yet.
An urgent report. On the surface, new adversaries have emerged. There were 2 of them. Since they are not inside the labyrinth, we are unable to precisely calculate their existence values, but we believe that they are at least over 1 million.
Delta, who was keeping an eye on the surface, provided the report this time. To make the small monitor visible to all, its size was changed and increased. 2 angels, no, 2 fallen angels with black wings, suddenly materialized on the screen. They were a small, lovely girl and a massive, muscular female warrior. They also possessed 3 pairs of wings.
Are you serious? These guys are also seraphim since they have the same amount of wings.
Ramiris flew around in a panic, feeling helpless and desperate. Then, however, she recalled something and asked Delta with a glimmer of optimism.
Hey, Delta-chan, how do you know they're the enemy?
The other side might be friendly, despite the likelihood being slim to none. Delta could only deliver the harsh reality to Ramiris, who had inspired such naive thoughts.
The reason for this is that those 2 are keeping us from recovering the hole that Lady Velgrind created. Our victory is assured as soon as the labyrinth is completed, hence it's improbable.
She gave a clear, unquestionable answer.
Ah, you're right, thank you.
After a while of flitting around in the air, Ramiris settled down on Beretta's shoulder. At this time, Ramiris was so disgusted by the enemy's strategy of bringing in 4 million class adversaries that she wanted to curse all night. However, a trustworthy ally suddenly woke up.
Leave the surface to me. The city that is named after Sir Rimuru is not going to be easily destroyed.
It was the return of the newly evolved barrier Lord Geld.
Geld.
Ramiris cried with happiness.
The existence value of Sir Geld exceeds 2.37 million. After adding up all of his gear, I'm confident he can handle any invader.
Coincident with Geld's evolution, his own legendary grade equipment had advanced to the mythical grade. It had also developed so successfully as a result of Geld surrounding Yuki. All of the people there were under the false impression that everything was part of Rimuru's intentions, even though Rimuru never anticipated this either.
That's Rimuru for you. I couldn't have seen this development even with my eyes.
Ramiris, whose eyes were penetrating, said this confidently. As though nothing had happened, Beretta dismissed it.
That's right. What a frightful intentional scheme.
And yet another awakening was finished.
I'm also here. My prey will be the other opponent.
Kumara, the Chimera Lord, had appeared.
The estimated existence value of Lady Kumara is 1.9 million. To have such a value without any special equipment, the opponent is no longer a threat.
Cheers broke out in the control room at Alpha's report. As if to validate Alpha's claims, a furious struggle erupted on the surface as well. Even more unexpected was the fact that Geld's men had also dispersed to different positions, erecting a strong barrier to shield the city from the fighting's fallout.
We can win this now.
It appears that things will work out for the time being.
When Ramiris declared victory, Beretta felt relieved. Still, though, relaxing was premature. Phantom King Feldway had not yet completed his scheme. His real objective was something else entirely, and everything that had happened up until this point had only been a distraction. In the control room, the tension that had been growing slowly subsided. Ramiris, who had just declared her victory over Beretta's shoulder, seemed to lose her voice and become silent. However, Beretta was used to these kinds of situations, and he had remained composed all through while tending to the restless lord. From a distance, Shinji had been watching the scene and was quietly taking in the current chaos as though it were someone else's business. The way the battle was happening was beyond his comprehension, to the point where he could no longer accept that it was real. That's why Shinji didn't panic. Although he could see Ramiris's frustration, couldn't she have been more composed? That crossed his mind.
If she could just learn a bit from Beretta.
Shinji really felt that way, but he would never express it. He would not only provoke needless anger by saying such a thing, but he would also run the danger of having his pay slashed. Although Ramiris's labyrinth was indeed remarkable, Ramiris was not as strong as Shinji. Alternatively put, the difference was so great that a comparison wasn't even necessary. So, regardless of how much Ramiris panicked, there was nothing she could do. Additionally, Shinji recalled the celebration of triumph that had taken place the previous day. Those Majins had unfathomable power. And all these strong individuals pledged their loyalty to Demon Lord Rimuru. Shinji was an otherworlder, a special A rank according to Freedom Association standards. He'd calculated his existence value as well, and it was now greater than 120,000. Additionally, he had the special ability, Healer, which had made him an elite leader in the Imperial Army. Here, he was no more exceptional than the rest, in contrast to his previous arrogant belief that his strength belonged to the upper class. In fact, even the attractive sisters who worked as operators here had individual existence values exceeding 150,000. Shinji therefore had every right to believe that there was no use in bragging about his own strength or fretting about it. It should be noted that Shin had a value of 120,000 and Mark had a value of 130,000. They would be powerless to stop the monster on the monitor because they were essentially the same. Despite this, they managed to maintain a standoff with the enemy in spite of the absence of all major forces. Shinji felt that was a tremendous accomplishment on its own. If you look back, you can see that even the battle power of the proud armored core of the Empire wasn't even close to 30% of Tempest's overall strength. And that was just before the victory party. Demon Lord Rimuru had bestowed new powers upon the executives at the celebration, sending the majority of the upper Majins into an evolutionary slumber. Some of them have even started to reach the million class as a result. To tell the truth, Shinji's comprehension was no longer able to keep up with the current situation. Like with Geld before, the evolution of monsters was genuinely puzzling.
I'm so glad I left the Empire for Tempest.
Shinji expressed his sincere gratitude to Master Gadra. He glanced back at the monitor and saw that Kornu, one of the 3 Phantom Commanders, was engaged in combat with Minutes, one of his former superiors. The scene appeared to be from a movie.
How can one defeat such monsters, after all? Really, it's amazing that there are individuals in the world who are even like that.
Shinji believed that Minutes and Calgario were more weird as they dared to face the enemy despite having lost their powers. However, he felt that the upper classes of the Empire weren't all that horrible as he watched them, like in a movie, regain their strength in the face of such a formidable foe. To put it simply, it was completely unrealistic.
Is it possible that they consider themselves to be the primary characters?
Shinji even started to have such doubts as a result. That could be the reason Shinji didn't have a crisis and diverted his attention to something more fascinating. In a nutshell, it was an escape from the actual world. Thoughts of Shuna crossed his mind. She had just delivered snacks for everyone.
Yes, Shuna remains incredibly adorable and lovely.
What he thought of his boss was irrelevant, or rather, he didn't give a damn. Shinji was more preoccupied with Shuna's adorable appearance than with the tactless fighting at the moment. Shinji was delighted just thinking about her bowing and exiting the room. She was flawless and full of dignity.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Chad Vota, Chris Guzman, Havox, Speed Saber, James Waters, Arijit Das, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Justa Guy, Misael W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rossan, Jarius Ladek, Stone Larone, Alfonso Smith, Donald Williams, Moab A, Day of Light, John M, John Charles, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Andre L. Hamilton, Adrian, Kumo, Sanketh Chelu, T. Bush, John L, Edgar Fuentes, JV, Dirty Old Hobo, Thomas, J, Christ, Juan Ignacio, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Vethelny, Lunel Scarlett, Khalid, Christian Deshazer, Cal Robs, Divine C. Harris, Panda Cats, Aaron Alarcon, DeAndre Nance, Monty Boy 98, D-Man, Ruben, Luis Caro, Yuki Iki, Pedro Robles, Chris Jr., Isaac, Koala King 93, Little 95, Coyote de Peza, Quilly Buckner, Zephyros, Alver, Normal Defate, Joshua Andrade, L, Gary Miles, Dragon Spawn 666, J Rule, Sayonori, Liel Tiram, Liron Sangkap, Eric Tass, Christopher Mash, Echo Tski, Foolish Prophets, Ethan Madison, Charles Bailey, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Nick H, Andre Hamilton, Jason Torres, Sesh, Guy Ansley, Simon Road, Emperor WSA, Mika Espinosa, George Hage, Pratik Bandari, Arod Dare, Faiz Mansour, Derihas Kerte, Jackson Early, Smexy, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Tank Bailey, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Homelike Drop, Nasir, Mam Wang Min, Vasto Lord, Martin Ramos, Marl Barsha, Aditya Vyas, Hansel Ortega, Efrain Hernandez, Luca Gaming WTF, William Locke, Bismarck Munoz, Arion Booker, Kamal Luke, Wei Jun, Elvin Quarty, Samuel Ward, Steven, Mose Chaudhary. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.